Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this, if you may recall, is the Airfix Hawker Hurricane Mark 1 that I built a little while ago. This is going to be auctioned off for Models for Heroes, a charity that I support. And in today's video, we're going to look at the base for this plane. It's going to be a fairly simple base, nothing too amazing. But it's mainly there to give it a nice, place to display, and also somewhere to hide all the electrics that's going to be needed to power the lights and the motor for the propeller. The auction of this model will begin basically once I upload this video. So the auction will be live for 7 days, and the details of that auction can be found below. If you wish to bid, that would be very kind of you. If you don't, that's fine too. You're not obligated to do so. But yes, this is basically to build a display for this aircraft. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get on with it. So what I've got here is a piece of 9mm or 3/8 plywood, which is just a piece. Oddly enough, this was given to me a few days ago by somebody, so it's coming very handy already. I don't normally make the bases this thick, but the reason I've done it this thick in this particular instance is, well, I'll explain why. You'll notice there's a hole here, and the hole is for the stand of the aircraft to fit into. If you remember, I made it from a pen. Here's the other end of the pen. So basically there's an 8mm counter bore and a 6mm through hole. So that allows the pen to stand quite nicely in there, and then there's a hole for the wires for the motor and the fibre optics for the lights to run through. So what we need to do now is put a bit of a covering on this to give us something to work off the top of. So to give us a base to work from, I'm going to use this ready mix filler. It's just cheap stuff that came from I don't know, one of the DIY shops. And I'm just going to put a thin layer of this on the top just to give it a little bit of texture. Right, so I'm going to leave this set up for a little while, and then once it's started to go off, I'm just going to go over it lightly just to remove any high spots or any rough edges, and smooth it off a little bit. Right, that's pretty much dry now. So I've got this, this is Winsor & Newton sap green. I'm using this basically because I've got this massive tub of it. But what I'm going to do is put a coat of this over the whole thing, just to give it a base colour. So I might put a little bit of water in it just to thin it down a bit, because this is quite thick, this paint. But yeah, we'll give it a coat of this and then we'll be able to get on with it. Right, now we can just leave that to dry, and then we'll put some grass on it. So the base is painted now. I've also done the edges with black just to hide them a little bit. Now I'm going to put some of this glue mix on. This is just PVA glue, a little bit of the same green paint and some water just to thin it down a bit. And I'm going to put this on at random spots and then put some static grass on. In the static grass applicator, I've got 4mm meadow grass. I'm going to put this on first, and then I'll put some 2mm on afterwards. And this is the 2mm meadow grass. So what I'm doing now is I'm just patting the grass a little bit, just to kind of moosh it around a bit so it's not all standing upright and you know, looking unrealistic. Right, that doesn't look too bad. There's a few extra bits I'm going to do to it. I'll show you those next. So I've got some scenery glue here. I made this in a previous video. I'll put a link up to it. I'm going to cover this whole thing in the scenery glue because that will really help hold it down. And I'm also going to add a few extra effects to it as well. So what I'm also going to put on is some of this Woodland Scenics blended turf. I'm just going to sprinkle some of this over, just fairly haphazardly, because it gives it a nice sort of mossy look, and also it's got these little yellow flecks in it that look quite like flowers, so they're quite handy. And I'm going to add a little bit of this as well. This is Woodland Scenics burnt grass. Just a little bit of this, not too much. Now we'll give it another quick spritz of the scenery glue and leave it to dry. Right, so what I've got here are the basic components for the electrical system. There's the battery we saw earlier. It's a 3.7 volt lithium polymer battery, 750 milliamp hour. A charging circuit for said battery. You can buy these on eBay or Amazon or anywhere. If you basically search for a 5 volt USB charging circuit, you'll find these. I buy these like 20 at a time. I've got the LED for the lights. I've also got here a plug for the battery. Normally what I do with these is I snip the plug off and I solder this directly to the charging circuit. The reason I'm using the adapter this time is the fact that because this is going to be for sale and someone else is going to have it, it's basically a bit of sort of future proofing, so that if anything goes wrong in the future, the battery stops working or anything like that, you can just unplug it and plug a new battery in. So that's why I'm doing it like that. So now what I've got to do is solder this and this onto this. So bit of soldering paste works wonders when doing this kind of job. It's basically flux in a tin. So to connect this up, the connectors we've got here, you can see we've got battery plus, battery negative, out positive, out negative. So we connect the battery wires here and then these other wires to the outside. If I plug the battery in, I think this battery's flat actually. There, yes, that battery is flat. But you see now the light comes on when I plug the battery in. I've just done this as a kind of a demonstration. I am going to change the way this is wired because obviously I need to put the switch in it as well. So yeah, you may have spotted the, the deliberate mistake just now. Of course I forgot to put the switch in. This is a torch switch. You can get these on eBay, Amazon. They're very cheap. It's just a little push on, push off switch. So what I need to do is solder the live wire from the charging circuit to one end and then the live out to the other side. So that's what we'll do next. And there we go. That's better. Idiot. Now one of the other things I need to do, I've just cut the slot for the charging circuit. What I also need to do is bring these charge status lights to the front of the panel. So what I've got here is the clear sprue from the kit, and what I'm going to do is cut a piece off of this to act as a fibre optic to bring those lights to the front. So we just cut here and here. That's way too big for what we need, but we can cut it down once it's in place. And what I'm going to do is I'll stick that onto those charge lights and then run it through a hole in this to give us the light position that we need. Right, so this is all glued together now. So just to show you how it works, I plug the USB cable in. It's just a standard micro USB. The battery's not connected at the moment. So we have the blue status light, lights up. That shows that the battery is fully charged, or in this case not connected. And if I plug in the battery, we see the charging light goes red, and that is carried through to the front. And again, if I press the switch now, the light comes on, and obviously if the motor was connected, that would spin as well. So now we can fit this in the box. So this is the box that the diorama is going to sit on. There's the hole in the back where the switches and everything will go. What I'm going to do is take one of these large Models for Heroes logos and put it on the front. So I think what I need to do is cut it out, make a template, and then spray a white background so that it shows up properly. So we'll do that next. Right, well, I'm not the greatest in the world at cutting out stencils, but I don't think that's come out too bad. I think that's quite nice. And on the back, I've just put on the title, Night Landing, and the date. So I'm going to leave that to dry for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to put another couple of coats of gloss varnish just to seal and protect everything. And here is the finished article. I'm quite pleased with how this came out. It's been a fun little project, interesting adding the lights and the motor. As I said at the beginning, this build is purely in aid of Models for Heroes. So if you would like to help the charity that I support and have this model for yourself, you can do so. There's a link to the auction in the description below. The auction will run for 7 days, and at the end of it, whoever has the winning bid will receive this model. I think it's going to be fun packing it up, but that's just something else to deal with. So I hope this video has been interesting to you. It's been a fun little project for me, all in a good cause, as they say. It's nice to take an out-of-the-box model and make a few simple but I think quite effective modifications to it. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and thanks very much for bidding if you choose to do so, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, bye.